Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur with We Write About Music, and today I'm here with Charles Tichenor from Dirtycakes.
That's
Fresh
me.
off the release of their newest single, Gimme Some and Ode to Craving, we're absolutely thrilled to have you on today. How are you doing? What's up?
Thank you. I'm doing great, man. It's Los Angeles. It actually rained today. I think it's been,
Oh, yeah.
which is crazy. Cats are dating dogs. Moon's coming up with the sun. Like all sorts of crazy things are happening today. It's like Groundhog Day out here. Who knows what's gonna happen? But I'm
Seriously.
excited. I'm excited.
I'm also in LA, so yeah, it was kind of a crazy day for weather, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh well. All things considered, I'm alive. I'm in Los Angeles.
Things could be a
There are
whole
far worse situations I could have.
Absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
before we get into it, I just gotta let you know that the song absolutely rocks. You guys have done a fantastic job on it. So
Oh, well, thank you so
congrats.
much. It's such a nice
Yeah,
thing to say.
totally. I really want to hear about the influences that inspired its creation.
Sure. I mean, all sorts of things, right? I mean, I don't know that I like sat down and powered through like 5 records and was like,
Of
okay,
course
now I'm gonna
not.
write this song, right? But I mean, I think everybody in the band brings sort of their own stuff to it, whether it's old school punk rock or, I mean, Rick, the bass player, he has a big background. He played in the English beat and like the specials for like a decade. So
Mhm.
he's always got a really good ear from melody and all sorts of things like that. And I think, as the guy that kind of came up with, spirited a fair bit of it, I would say, when I'm thinking back to that, I think it definitely strikes on a lot of the stuff I listened to when I was, a teenager, like Black Flag and early Nirvana, some Vines, some other things. I mean, there's an element of some visceralness to it, which I really, really dig. And I think what was great about that one versus last time, I mean, first off, we got to record at Rancho de la Luna with Dave Catching, which is like amazing. And so half of the vibe you get is just like being in the magic with a wizard out in the middle of, Oz, which is, I don't, like when you're out in the middle of the desert with absolutely nobody around you, just recording machines, and then like several, iconic, like for lack of a better word, gods among men around you. It's hard to not like have a really good time. So I would say as much as it is, as much as it is listening to like I don't know the Circle Jerks and maybe too much of Motorhead or even Meatloaf. Who knows? Like there's an element of that like raw, visceral, like just straight up energy thing. There's an honesty to it, and that's one of the things that like it was such a blessing to be around like Dave Catching and all the other folks. Where it's just like you're not putting on airs. You don't need to be cool. You're already around somebody that like we had our Alice Cooper moment when I walked up, and then like you get humanized after you have dinner with each other. You see each other the next day. You start setting things up and get things going. And but I think as far as it goes, like one thing I love about it is that it's bass lick driven, which is rad.
Right,
Whether you're a
right.
fan of Thin Lizzy, whether you're you like Motorhead, but you like all these fun. There's a lot of really 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 good rock and roll where like there's the bass lick that's doing stuff, and there's a bunch of Nirvana songs that are like I mean every band's kind of got a couple of them, and I'm really happy that we have that. And the drums sound amazing, and
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's responsible for what on the track? Who plays what?
so
Who kind of?
so I play guitar. To be very simple, I play guitar and sing.
Okay.
Rick plays bass, and we have a drummer, and she pound them out, and it was very much just like we have other tracks where somebody's singing backup, or we've got some songs. Another song that's going to be on the record. One's called "In the Garden," which is like one of our closer numbers, where Rick got on a piano, and it was like the same piano that is the same seat, same piano, same microphones as what's on like Clockwork and like early Arctic Monkey records, because you're in Rancho de la Luna. So it's like we started
Right,
playing it, and
right.
you see, like it was crazy. We mic'd up the drum kit and like other things, and like you start just hearing these sounds from records from like late from 4 o'clock in the morning. Like holy shit, I know that snare drum. I know exactly where that came from, right? Like there's a moment in God Is in the Radio off the Queens of Stone Age record where there's just like this little shuffle groove going on and like this big kick drum sound. And I now know that big kick drum sound is a tube microphone set in the bedroom around the corner, along with like this speaker that they put in front of the kit, and then like something outside of the window, like
Yeah, so you're learning all the tricks
it's
along the way.
amazing. Yeah, and it somewhat demystifies it. Like, okay, I know how the
Right,
sausage is
right.
made, but also it's like, holy shit, that's amazing. amazing. Now we get to do it, right? Like, who cares how the sausage is made? Like, if it's delicious, like, I don't care. Like, if I understand how a filet mignon is made, it's fucking delicious, and I'm going to enjoy the shit out of it. So, like,
Exactly.
it was amazing. And so I think that track, which also, like, we had prepped all this stuff, like the live record, and that's the second song of our live set,
Okay.
was like on stage. We put in hundreds of hours into getting stuff ready. By the time we showed up, like, that's like the third take. You know what I'm saying? And it was
Right.
top to bottom. The only thing that we really did is I went back, because I'm only one guitar player, and there's some, had to make the guitar solo chunkier than it is live. So I had to go back and re-record this guitar part, and which is fun, and double up some vocals here or there. But I mean, more or less, like, that's the energy of us in a room. Like, okay, we're gonna go play some rock and roll. So, like, we sat in there, played the set like once or twice. Like, we did a show basically for the guys at Rancho and the crew out there. And then it's like, all right, cool. So what song are we gonna do? We did one, pounded out. All right, let's do the next one. I think actually that was the first. Come to think of it, that was the first song. We had already had the first song in the set recorded in another studio. So that was like, cool. We got everything set up, and then it was literally like we didn't have time to get in our heads about it. There was no, like, all the cobwebs were off because we just did a record. We had just done a live show, like, at the studio in the room. So it was just like, all right, let's go kick some ass. And it just, I think legitimately the entire recording process took about 20 minutes. And then we had to do vocals and guitars, because the song's 2 minutes 17. So it was like one pass, two pass. All right, everybody smoke a cigarette, come back, let's kill this thing. And we did. And we're like, all right, cool, done. Let's move on. And when you go into a studio prepped, it's great. And, like, that was part of a respect, right? Because, like, we're at this, like, type place. I mean, millions of records sold come out of that room. And it's weird when you're in there, you see, like, the platinum albums of, like,
where was it, did you say?
We were at Rancho de la Luna, which is Dave Catching. He's the lead guitar player from Eagles of Death Metal. And that's a studio where Desert Sessions is made, and a lot of the Queen's records, the Arctic Monkeys records, when they started making stuff with Josh Homme. So it's like, I mean, how all the Seattle stuff, all the before 1991, like, sub pop stuff, all had one sound, is because it's at Jack Endino's studio, because he was the guy cheap enough that the record label could pay to have him do it. So it all had this sound. Well, this all has that sound, right? Like Apple Studios, or, when the Beatles, it all had that sound. Like, there's something to it. And so, I mean, where does it come from? I mean, part of it is just the ghost in the machine, because with, like, all the cobwebs left off of all these other rocks, like, their skin and hair follicles, just some old lady shit just around there. It's like, it's so exciting. And there's no, like, as somebody that is a performer and that really likes to do this stuff, going in there with other people where you can just, like, honestly just let everything go and just have a good time and be really honest and enthusiastic, which clearly I'm already enthusiastic. Like, I'm not putting on air and say, this is just who I am. I talk too much all the time. Like, that's what you hear. And that's who we are on stage. And I think that's one reason that it kicks ass, is because, like, we made a very specific point. Like, there was a lot of decisions, like, are we going to go high production? What are we going to do? It's like, let's just be kick ass and just throw it down. And, like, it's going to be what it is.
Of it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I appreciate it. Like, but there's some of this, like, Steve Albini effort to it. It's like, this is what you sound like, right? And so I'm a big fan of Steve Albini from Big Black. I mean, obviously Euro's great, but Big Black and all these other things, just like, go do that thing. Like, that's who you are. I don't ever want to be and I don't want to put something on record that I can't do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, in terms of sound, would you guys ever take a different direction, or is it just like experimentation, or how does it kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, and even in the record that we're working on, we do have different sonic pieces, right? There is some really fast stuff, and then there is some slower things where there's big numbers and small numbers. I think the most important thing is that you accurately and warmly capture the moment in time, right? So. Right. And the honest truth is, we could have gone to another studio a week and a half later, made that record, and been totally stoked on it and sounded completely different. But it's a cohesive thought that occurred there. And I picked that studio for us to go to. That was sort of a pet project for me, just because I like the stuff that came out of there. Like, I found out about that studio because I'm a bit of a guitar nerd. And, like, Rated R was recorded there from Queens of the Stone Age. And I was just like, well, those are the best drum sounds I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
And like, you know, Songs to the Deaf was recorded there. And I'm like, well, those are some of the best guitar tones that I had heard, like, whatever. And then, so you go there, and like the guitar tones on the record, I was basically like, fun story. I went to him, I was like, man, I don't know, like, what should we do here? We got this song, and I've got stuff, but like, I'm also in this space, right? Like, I can come preloaded with my Sun amp and like my Sovtech and stuff that's kind of cool, you know, that's mean and whatever. And I went to Dave, and I was like, hey, man, like, and he heard us play it, and I was like, what do you think is right for this? And he's like, he whiffs his beard a little bit like this, and he's got a better beard than I do. And he does this thing, he's like, I got this thing called the Dragon Slayer. And I was like, sold, done. I don't even know what's right. And it was this like gator print, like gator skin wrapped custom handmade amplifier that, like, I mean, clearly a lot of sins have been committed by the output of what that thing has introduced into society at large. And it is probably 50% of the guitar tone there. And I mean, if I literally, I have this thing in my wallet where, like, and I carry it around with me, where I had mapped out all the tones, right? So like, I have like these sticky notes, and it's like, clean is going to be this Fender amp, and then like these pedals, like I still carry it with me, like as as like a little thing. So it's like, Gimme Some is going to have verse, there's no guitar, and then the chorus is going to be heavy, and then the solo is going to be mod plus delay, and then I got like all the amps and all the, you know, pedals, and I'm going to use my polychorus and my pitchfork and my Hall of Fame and my octave fuzz and, you know, my voice box and all. And I got there, and I was just like, I came here because I love what this guy does. I'm going to let the wizard do his thing. And I'm just going to show, I got my guitar with me. We're going to have a good time. And
totally.
That's what you hear. And that's why I love it, because it's absolutely that honest piece of time with something more than I could have ever planned for if I sat down and put it on a piece of paper, because I did. And I'm so glad we didn't follow my directions. I was so wrong.
So does the record have a release date set yet, or are you guys still working on things in the back?
So we're still working on things, but it'll probably be midsummer. And that's basically because there's one more track that we want to record, which we basically didn't have ready for it. And after we recorded, we were out playing more shows, and we had this song. Somebody found this old demo of mine. I was like, hey, Charlie, why aren't we playing this damn song? And I was like, I don't know. I made a demo of it like 4 years ago, whatever. And then we dragged it out and changed it up a little bit, played it live, and it ended up being the like shining moment of the live set, where we had to change around some of the order, like, you know, like had to change the recipe just to include this ingredient because it was that fucking good.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to record that, and then the record's basically done.
Okay.
And so we're super stoked on that. Just now we got to get that thing. We're waiting on that, and then we'll master the whole thing together. So, but our big plan is like every month we're releasing either a new single from the record or a new video, and just trying to be current. Just like we can't play shows right now and stuff, you know?
Right. I mean, hopefully by the end of summer, crossing our fingers at this point, things are looking good.
I think the bass player's got his COVID. His first shot is tomorrow, which is great.
Oh, nice.
I'm certain that I'm gonna be like late June.
Last in line, probably.
Yeah, man. Like,
yeah.
I don't work in the service industry. I you know, I don't go anywhere. I don't know anybody. I don't have friends. Like, I don't need that thing. There's other people that are like needy or like have to talk to people. You know, like other folks need it more than I do. And if I can't go and do the things that I want to do because they haven't gotten it yet, I'll gladly let them be the ones to get it first. Because I mean, I don't want that on my shoulders. So we'll just, you know. So hopefully by the end of the summer we get to do stuff. I mean, that would be awesome.
Hoping so.
Yeah, and while all this is happening, we haven't like just sat around twiddling our thumbs doing nothing. Like,
oh, of course.
There's
lots of collaboration and sending.
Yeah, you know. Absolutely, you know, and my bass player, he's got a studio, right? So Rick, he's got a studio, so we'll spend we'll spend a night or two a week and going over the stuff. It's great because, you know, he's in the bubble, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, my fiance loves the fact that I can get the hell out, so she can have some time without me rambling it.
We all need our time
without inhaling. Yeah, absolutely, right? It's healthy, right?
Yeah.
And so I got a place to go, and it's great. So I taught him how to use Robinhood, and, He's teaching me how to play guitar, and it's a lot of fun. Because
Yeah,
I
what's
will
up,
say that
Brian?
I have the luxury of being the absolute worst musician in the band, and that is a blessing by far. Like,
You're just gonna
I get
openly admit that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. If everybody else in the band has played festivals for decades and I'm a
True,
schmuck with a
true.
baritone guitar and a fuzz box that relies more on putting my guitar in drop D and shaking my hips and screaming at people while they do all the hard work, I'll gladly say that, like, my number one job is to move stuff. Like my number one job is to hold down my section in the spread, right? Like,
Sure.
contribute my piece. And as egotistical and full of myself as any frontman should be, I'm more than willing to say that I am proud that other people have, they're slumming it with me. And I am so happy to have that. Because, like,
Well, how did you
it's
meet
funny.
them? How did you get the band together?
Yeah, so, like, Rick and I have known each other for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew him because here in LA, there's this thing called Cantor's Deli, which is like the Cat's Deli of Los Angeles.
I miss it
And
dearly.
on Tuesday nights at Cantor's Deli, they have a jam night. It's called the Fockers, the Friends of Cantor's Kibitz Room.
Right.
And it's all these old rockers, right? It's all these guys. So it's like, I mean, it's a crazy slew of people, right? Like, I mean, you'll have Slash just drop in some night, or you'll have, like, Beck will come in, or, like, I don't know, Gloria Estefan's drummer will sit in for that. It's just crazy night, right? Because it's basically all these career musicians. So it's on a Tuesday. They're not out on the road, so they just got
What
back,
else are they doing?
right? What else are they doing? So they all play for free with friends for sandwiches. Nobody gets any money. They don't even get free drinks. You get, like, corned beef on rye with some fries, and it's like,
I'm into it.
I mean, that's a $30 sandwich. Don't get me wrong.
It is a $30 sandwich. It's a bunch of crap.
But yeah,
Not expensive.
It is damn expensive. Although I tell you, my favorite that I get every time I would play is corned beef on challah with Swiss, and then I get my fries like poutine style. And
have you had that's waffle before? Oh no, I haven't. They make a pretty good waffle, I gotta say. I'm gonna have to heckle them about that by a friend. Every time she comes and visits, we meet at Cantor's and we get the waffle. And I would have never ordered it on my own, but
I love it. Yeah, I used to live in Laurel Canyon, so I would go there all the time.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, Rick is one of the house guitar players for the Tuesday night gig.
Got it.
So I would show up on Tuesdays because I was jamming with this other drummer at the time, this kid Jonathan, and he and I were both regulars at the Comedy Store. Because I used to be in satellite radio, and then when I moved to LA, I got a gig at the Comedy Store, just doing. I got passed, and so I was a regular there for a while, and then we had this band, and like, he turned me on to this thing, and I would just show up, and nobody knew who I was. So, like, if you haven't been to the jam night, most people probably haven't. It's the front man of the band. He basically, the night is set up like a DJ set. He's a DJ, right? Not like a, but like, like he works like, bars or whatever. He does, he spins records of 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. And so the band just basically they start with a song. Somewhere in the song, he changes the song. So everybody, it's wrong key, wrong tempo, wrong everything. And he just starts singing something else, and everybody's got to pick up for it. So the first song lasts about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Until for whatever reason they ran out of ideas, or he's like, screw this, I'm going to take a piss or whatever, right? And then, so they start jamming at like 10 o'clock, and it's like midnight, 12:30. So I would usually get the like 1:15 slot when everybody's given up, and it's like the bass player from Heart and like, Beck's drummer and like all this weird stuff, right? Yeah. And it's like eventually everybody's crapped out. And it's like, okay, well, Charlie can pick up bass, and then it's just like Stones covers for 45 minutes while everybody's eating sandwiches. And then, like, I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. I'll play bass on some Stone covers till the cows come home, and I'll do it very poorly, but I'm going to have a good time. And like, we just became friends because I was the guy eager to jump on stage just to be able to play. And then we shot the shit and became good friends with things. And then when the opportunity came to make this band happen, he was my first call. Just like, I know you've been the lead guitar player in bands that have toured the world for a long, long time.
Right.
Would you be the lead instrument in this band? But we need a bassist. Because I'm not good at guitar. I just have ones that I've thought far too highly and long about. Because I built all my own like baritone custom guitars and have far too many pedals. It's like, I'm gonna play very simple punk would you like to come in and make it decent? Like something along those lines.
Sure.
And so like if you listen to Gimme Some, I mean the chorus is 4 chords and then an open note and then it feeds back. The reason that song is awesome is there's the bass lick, which is sweet, right? And it's the lead guitar part played on a short scale bass by the guy that used to be the lead guitar player in the English Beat for a decade.
Got it.
And this slamming drummer, like, so it's like all of this stuff, like all I have to do is come up in there and like say some things that somebody might relate to that like kind of hits them a little bit in the soul, and then throw some fuzz guitar on it, and I can scream at a room full of people a little bit better than maybe some other people, and I'll gladly take that. And you know, I think that's sort of an ode to some like addiction and heartbreak and all this other stuff that people might be able to relate to. Who knows? If you can't, that's fine. If you can, like, that's great. Like, I've been through all that stuff. I've got almost 9 years clean now. And I mean, I should be dead. And it's an opportunity to kind of talk about all that stuff. So, like, I mean, some of the choruses are like, you know, talking about till the butane is gone, right? And there's like, you know, I think the opening line is like, it's in a highly metaphoric way of talking about taking, you know, a glass rose from the gas station and firing it up. Like, and now if that means something to you, awesome. If it doesn't mean something to you, then you probably shouldn't worry about it. It's
but hey, it's relatable for some. So
some people will get it, some people won't. I was a hardcore drug user for a long period of time. I overcame that. It is absolutely hardcore drug users will listen to that and know exactly what the hell is going on. And hopefully it's also random enough and relatable enough that if you don't know that, like I tried to find, like I'm a big fat fan of like sarcastic metaphor and over things like between like Velvet Underground and Nirvana and a lot of these bands, like they don't say exactly what they're saying.
Right.
They say it in a way that like you can relate, even though it's not about you, it's about you. And I've always loved it when people could do that. I mean, Bob Dylan's talking about this one specific thing, and like you either get it or you don't, and he's beautiful, right? But like I'm a big fan of Tom Waits. Like there's so many Tom Waits songs that have absolutely nothing to do with what he's singing about. Like, and I love that stuff. So like there's a lot of that element in there. So, you know, the lyrical writing of that is very much in that like Kurt Cobain, Tom Waits, like Velvet Underground, Lou Reed style of let me be very specific while being extremely general in a way that people can relate to if they know, and if they don't know, it can mean something to them. And I find that I love that type of art because it allows the most amount of people to not be alienated by something. And I think like if you can have togetherness and you can bring people to, and you can have a union around something similar, like I'd much rather have something that's inclusive that can have, you know, some sort of effort of triumph or love or something along those lines. Like anybody can write a song about how some girl broke their heart and about how everything sucks.
It's overdone.
But like, yeah, at some point in time, you're not contributing anything to the existence of mankind, right? Like there is 47 19-year-old kids in every coffee shop that like have learned their one song and they're getting their boba tea and they're gonna knock it out of the park and like they're gonna have a good time doing that. Right. That's not a contribution. I feel like if we're not doing something that's contributing to some space, like if you can listen to that track and I would say personally when I listen to it, I can't peg it, I can't clock it as it's this thing plus this thing, right? And everybody that I show it to says, oh, it's this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and like it means something different, and that's how I know that like it's good enough. Right, and the songs that we picked were all picked for very specific reasons. Because maybe we write stuff. I mean, I got my guitar over here. Like, I could write a song right now, you know, based off of nothing. But like, by the way, that's a great guitar. I'll talk to you about it sometime. You know, but like, that's what I dig about that song, about Gimme Some, and a lot of the songs we picked, because they're not easily clockable to one thing. And I think that's really, really important. So many people think that because they have shiny equipment and they made something that sounds like something else, that they should get attention for it. My opinion is nobody owes you a damn thing. Most people won't give half a shit about anything that's halfway important to you. So you got to really, really care, and you got to bring something different to the table. Otherwise, you're forgettable. And like, as much as I love attention, I'm not going to be forgettable. So I can't bring music that is wallpaper. Like, I'm not making something you can ignore. You know what I'm saying?
Of course not.
And that's the plan. And so hopefully we got there.
You're doing it. So that kind of brings me to my next thing is, what are some goals that you've set for yourself, musical or not, for 2021?
Yeah, I mean, I think a plan that I've always wanted to do that I was never able to do, and I've wanted to do it for years, is basically have a record with like videos for every track.
Oh, okay.
I think that like, I think that's a big goal. And I've always treated, like, I think that I grew up in the age of the CD, right? Tail end of cassette, CD, Napster, this whole thing. And what I mean by that is like a progression of time is, I'm so used to buying records or CDs or cassettes or whatever, where like there's like 2 tracks, right? And that's what you have to pay $14 for those 2 tracks. Now they can charge the same production cost of the material of the CD and the paperwork and charge you $3 for it. But that's bad at unit economics. Why not charge you $14 because you're throwing 12 other pieces that are garbage, but then you rack up the price. Now you've already paid for the studio, you've already paid for the talent, so the front end cost is the same. The back end cost is the same, but one thing you can charge $3 for, one thing you can charge $14. Like, why would you not just throw extra shit on there?
All right.
And that's sort of like 90s music business, right? And like that happened because of Led Zeppelin. Like Led Zeppelin basically refused to release singles, so they only had full-length albums. Before Led Zeppelin, every band would release singles, right? And they'd make sure that they were radio friendly. Led Zeppelin said, "Screw it, we're never playing on television. We're only releasing live albums. You have to buy everything, or you're not buying anything." And then also their manager was like a professional wrestler, and like he would regularly strong arm people for 3 times more than the contract, and all sorts of really fun mafia stuff. Like the stories around that are fantastic. But so what I'm really hoping to do is bring the music business back, and bring the way that we're running this back to the music business was when I grew up listening to stuff, which I never listened to something after 1967 besides Fleetwood Mac and Dire Straits. So I was old enough to like hide my music from my parents because my dad found like my license to Ale cassette and threw it out, like all this other stuff, right? So, but like 1950s, 1960s, like the way records were made was you released singles, and then the best singles were put on a compilation, and that was an album. Mm-hmm. Bands weren't producers of records, right? Like the material at that time was very much based around short form stuff, because the medium was AM radio and 45 record, right? Like a 12-inch record was too expensive for most people. And even a 12-inch record player was a luxury item. So like music was designed to be compelling in these 2.5 to 3 minute segments, 2 to 3 minute segments, right? I mean, even tours back in the day, back in the late 50s, early 60s, like we ever see the movie That Thing You Do? It's perfect around this. They go on tour and they have 3 songs.
Yep.
And there's 9 acts, all having 3 songs, and the record label makes 90% of the money.
Yep.
Because everybody else just is an employee. Now, that screws the artist, and I understand that, but thankfully, like, we're running the record label ourselves, at this point at least, until somebody feels like, making a bad investment, in which case we'll gladly, talk to them. But, like, bringing it back to every single second of everything that you do has to be good enough for somebody to give a shit, because their attention isn't a luxury item to you. So, like, we aren't releasing material that's not that good. And, like, it's designed with that in mind. Like the first single off the record was Make Love. I think it's like 1:57. The second single is like 2:17. And there's a very strong element in the back of my head when we're writing stuff. Like I will be going in the studio with Rick and showing him songs, and he'll call out like 2:30. You're at 3 minutes. Wrap it because like the Kinks have an entire catalog of songs that are less than 4 minutes long, and every one of them is probably better than anything I'll do. So like, you got to be that good. You know what I mean? Also, like, if you want to do a show, one of the things that I hate is, like, when I realize once the band is still playing that song, or, like, they're still on stage, right? So, like, there's also that mentality. Like, our live set's, like, 25 to 26 and a half minutes. And there's a very specific reason. The Beatles did 28 at the Hollywood Bowl.
Right. It's insane.
We're not as good as the Beatles. When we are, we'll do 30. Now, if that's a problem, like, cool. Like, you can find something else. But, like, I grew up on sitcom television. It's 24 minutes long, 26 minutes long. Like, that is my attention span. I'm ADD. And, like, people got other things to do. I'm competing with smartphones and Pornhub and like Netflix and like, you know, all this. People put on pants to like leave their house and go see other. I don't know if you've been out in the world, definitely not in the last year, but there are things out there called people, and you got to go deal with them. Like when you go to a show, and like you dealt with all of that. I have a responsibility of making it worthwhile so that you want to come back.
Right.
Otherwise, like I'm not doing my job, because ultimately the reason I'm in a club is to make sure that you had a good time. You hopefully brought a friend. Hopefully that night's going to end well for you. And the place should make money because you were there. You're an alcohol salesman that's trying to get people laid. That's why you're on stage. And if you take so long that it now becomes awkward, well, you really got in the way of that. And that is just selfish. And like, that's my opinion of it. Because I've seen so many people are like, well, I've got 45 minutes of all these things that nobody cares about. And 14 of them are about one girl. Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know? And so like that, there's that whole ethos of just like respecting the audience and understanding that like you got to earn every minute. And like, if you don't dig what we're doing for that song, cool. There's another one at 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. We do have a couple pieces that are like 4 or 5 minutes long, but those at the end of the set. Like you've already made your decision. So we do have a couple things that like I think the next single we're going to release is a long form one. And it's completely like in that vein of like, well, I mentioned it before, God is in the radio, it means the Stone Age. Like there's a jam point, it gets quiet, it gets big again. Like you go on a journey, you know, it's a saga. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have a saga. You know what I mean? So like we end the story with like a thing and this wonderful story of like, you know, somewhere between like, and we play along with a lot of the same topics, but like, you know, it's in the garden, right? Because it's like the snake tempting the virgin, right? Like it's the you know, the distillation of youth and really just trying to have that story, and then just the emotional journey of fuzz guitar and way too much toms and giant crash cymbals and like, you know, a bass player just melting your face. Like that's what people care about. Like when you're 24 minutes into it, like you're either looking at your phone, making an excuse to go outside, or you are completely enthralled. And so like, I don't even remember the question.
I like the short and sweet approach though. That is the way to go.
I mean, we did what, 2 verses, 2 choruses, a solo, an outro, and an intro to the song, and it's less than 2 minutes 30 seconds. Yeah, like there are commercial breaks on Hulu that are longer than that song.
True.
Like I will be watching RuPaul's Drag Race season 13, and I can play that entire song before like the commercial break is over.
I like that though.
Yeah. Like why not? Hey, there's something cool.
So yeah, we like to kind of like wrap these things up with a message from you saying, what would you like to pass off to the listeners? Where can they find your music, more importantly, and what else can they look forward to? Sure.
So like, I will say this, and obviously I'm a bit, you know, whatever. I'm clearly on some spectrum and whatever. Like I got a lot going on upstairs, and I put half of it out there. My point is, I encourage everybody to, if we can have one message out of all of this stuff, it's being honest and putting like the entire band is built around this element of honesty and like appreciation and love. And I don't mean that in like the Ringo Starr kind of way, just like we really genuinely care about each other, about the things that we're doing, and respect the person for giving us their time and their energy or their money or whatever. And that's an element of love and respect. So we try to be very honest with folks. There's like, I'm not auto-tuning my vocals. We didn't go back in there and chop up a whole bunch of stuff. Like if we screw up, you can hear it, right? Like people will, not for us, but like people will be learning the mistakes of David Gilmour's guitar solos forever because they just didn't feel like fixing it.
Sure.
Like, and that's one of my favorite quotes from him, but like, we're big about that thing. So like honesty and love and respect is a big deal. And I think one of our driving forces is we try to leave the place better than when we found it. And if that means that we try to get people to make a decision or we try to have a conversation, we'll talk with every single person. We give our merch away. Like it's all about that stuff because it's about the relationship. And I think that that's one of the most overlooked pieces and all the stuff that people are doing is like, I don't need to care about most of the things that people are doing. if I decide to, I want to be respected for that. And I think that that's a big piece. And then insofar as like how you can find stuff from us, I think that's also a big piece is like, we're trying to make it accessible and where everybody can. Now, obviously, you can go in, like we're on Spotify and iTunes and all of those things. But we're also trying to like make sure that we have video, so there's a visual medium. So like,
absolutely,
I love watching music videos. Yeah, because you get to make that connection. Like, how cool is the song "Cherry Pie" by Warrant without watching the music video? How good is "Closer" by 9 Inch Nails without that video?
Right.
Like my emotional connection to Trent Reznor will forever be different after seeing like scene edited cut, like all those clips from that video, right? Like those things are important. You know what I mean? I mean, even like Beastie Boys or like, old clips. Like I've never seen the Doors play live because Jim Morrison was dead long before I was ever born.
Yeah.
But I've seen clips and like, I get it. Like there's a thing that you can, that tape or whatever can't put across. And so we're trying to really reach people in all of those ways. So hopefully there's going to be music videos on YouTube and on Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff. And you can just type in Dirtycakes, one word. It used to be called 2 words, but because of like, whatever, 1 word, Dirtycakes. And you can find all of this stuff. And while this is really about Gimme Some, I Ode To Craving, like, I really hope that what it does is it allows people to, what I hope people get out of this is they get to know who I am and they get to understand what you're doing and they get to understand who we are and like what the motivation is. And so that it's not just 2 minutes 17 of their life, but something where like they can really attach to it or choose not to. I mean, to be honest, also those surface level relationships aren't really things that I really need. Like I'm putting stuff out there under the specific intent of, and we are putting things out there with the specific intent of like, this is meant to be taken in by somebody. It's not just us in a room making ourselves happy. There's a very specific effort to think about the person and the audience in the end. And like, I mean, I've had songs where like I come in and I'm super happy about it. And like somebody else in the band will like by the second chorus, they're bored. And like nobody will care. I don't care how good you feel about yourself. Nobody's going to give a shit. And like, that's a big deal. So that earnestness and hopefully when I'm talking about the love and I'm talking about the honesty and all that's coming forward, because like if it's not for you, that's fine. Like cool, there's other stuff for you. I love a lot of stuff and I hope that like if we can be there for everyone, whether it's on Instagram at Dirtycakes Band or on YouTube or our Facebook page or on on Spotify or wherever else, if what I'm saying or the music that we put across reaches you in a way, I hope that we can be wherever you are so that we can have that conversation. And that's sort of a responsibility. I don't want to just like come out of the little hovel, throw something into the ecosystem and then run away. Like, that's not great. And I think the people who I most respected were the ones that allowed that bit of back and forth. Like, and again, I know I brought him up before, but like Tom Waits, but like David Bowie was also really great with that. John Lennon was really great with that. All of these artists, Charles Peterson, photographer, they're all really good about making themselves accessible to the people that might have found something in what they were doing. And I think that goes to the love and respect that you have for your audience. And if you don't give a shit about your audience, why should they give a shit about you? And I'll mention that with like the antithesis of that experience was I went to a Tool show and Maynard was insulting the audience on stage, just like clearly not into it.
Dang.
And I was just like, what am I doing here, man? I paid $70 for this ticket. I brought like a date. This isn't going well because this asshole on stage that we're all here to see is basically talking shit about us. Not one, I left early, so I didn't buy as many drinks.
Right.
The night didn't end well for me, if you know what I'm saying. And like, I didn't buy the next record. And that's because he was a dick. Right. And I've also been to places where the music might not have been the best, but I had a really good time. And I'll keep going back. Like that Tuesday night at Cantor's. Not necessarily the best jam every time, but I fucking love it. It's like I leave in a better place than when I went in. And that's ultimately my number one objective. And I feel like for what it's worth, that's our goal. That's like a driving force behind everything. So of a message of anything, it's, don't be a burden when you can be an asset. and things tend to work out because I don't know, but that's it.
They just do.
Yeah. There's no science behind it. It's not woo-woo shit. Just eventually, if you go enough places and you leave the place better than when you left it, people can't catch up and screw up everything that you've done. The world's a halfway decent place.
There you go.
At least for you. That's
Yeah,
it's worked for me.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I'm really looking forward to whatever else is going to come out in the coming months. Super excited for the record. And we'll have this all ready for tomorrow.
Awesome. I'm super stoked, man. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
I'll send you the next things that we got coming along.
Totally. Really excited.
You can tell them what you think about it. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Well, thank you very much. I love that Tame Impala poster.
Oh, nice.
And you got a guitar back there? What is that, an Alvarez?
It is an old Yamaha, just acoustic.
An old Yamaha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like a good guitar.
It works.
Yeah. All right. Cool. You got a capo on that thing?
Oh yeah, you gotta.
Yeah. All right. Right on. Yeah. I see a white pick. Is that a medium? It looks like a thin.
I think I got at Abbey Road Studios a couple of years ago.
You went to Abbey Road?
Yeah, it was awesome.
I'm jealous, man. I need to go overseas. I went to Amsterdam to go see the Buzzcocks, and dude died 9 days before the show.
Oh, fuck.
It's the third date with the girl that I'm now going to get married to.
Dang.
We met at a punk rock bowling festival in Vegas. Punk rock bowling.
Music
festival, which I got to play too. And we went to go see the Buzzcocks, and dude died. Like it was great. Like what we saw was, and talking about this honesty and about this connection and all this stuff, the club ended up putting on a show, and they got a bunch of local bands to come in and do punk songs.
Mm-hmm.
And like most of it was in English.
Yeah.
There was clearly this one band that was like these 17-year-old Ramones diehards without shirts on, singing everything in Dutch. But you knew the song. You was like, oh shit, that's shit.
Sure.
He's a punk rocker. Like, oh shit, I know that song. Like, we don't know what the hell they're saying, but I know that song. And it was just like this beautiful moment. We went up to the guys like, hey, we came from Los Angeles. And he looked at us like we were fucking crazy people. That's what we were.
Yeah.
But like, that's what it's about, man. Like, that's so much more important than some song about some chick that I wrote on my acoustic guitar that I think you should pay attention because I have a nice shiny piece of equipment and I got 5 friends to show up to like some dead bar in the middle of the night.
Right.
Like, that's what it's about, man. And it would mean the world to me if I could leave somebody with the impression of like, holy shit, tonight was fun.
Oh, it's gonna happen. No doubt.
Yeah. One of these days, someone's gonna enjoy what we do. I'm stoked.
Back soon enough, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. All right, man.
Yeah, man.
I know it's late. I appreciate it. You got a fancy microphone there, buddy. I like it.
Yeah, man. I look forward to speaking soon, man. Have a good rest of your night.
You too, buddy. I'm gonna go eat some chicken.
All right. Same here.
See ya.